Wondrous lands, imposing giants, an epic tale, all wrapped into a tight 5-hour package. This is Jotun. Jotun is a game released in 2015 by Thunder Lotus Games. I saw it pop up on some Dark Souls-like lists and decided to give it a try. Is it a giant success or a colossal failure? Let's find out. The game begins with a cutscene delving into the events of the shipwreck. In this scene you get your first taste of the Norse mythology that is the basis for the storytelling in this game. We'll come back to that later. Instead, what this cutscene shows is a fantastic art direction, and then it gets better. Instantly, the artwork in this game jumps off the screen. The sense of scale and size and the amount of vibrant detail is stunning for what is clearly a budget game. Your first encounter with Mimir shows off impressive animation, which this game has in spades. As far as gameplay, you quickly learn that you're on your own. There is no real instruction or tutorial, which I like. You have to discover on your own that you need to collect these runes. You find out through trial and error what causes damage, what these blessings do, etc. It's not only refreshing to have an adventure game allow you to experience the growing portion of the adventure, but it also helps add to and support the story of a lost girl. Once you collect all those runes, you'll fight this enemy, and you can see the combat is not too complex. In fact, even his walk cycle is stiff. In honesty, the combat in this game is not super fun. There are challenging sections later, don't get me wrong, but the combat is not a feature you want to play this game for. You have a light and heavy attack that takes some time to execute. You really just fish for idle moments against all enemies. Later you get different powers, but the basic combat remains the same. The heart of this game lies in the adventure portion of it and the beautiful world and animation. I mean, look at this death animation. This is Don Bluth level quality. Once you dispatch this foe, you then fight Jera, the Force Jotun. Again, the presentation is sublime, and again, the fight itself is not. It's not bad by any means, but it really is the most basic pattern-based combat. It does a nice job of varying the fight enough that it doesn't get too boring, but any notion of epic Souls-like fights against bosses goes out the window here. When you defeat Jera, you get another excellent animation, and then I take it to Gungingap. That's how I'm pronouncing it, so we're gonna roll. This is the hub between worlds. Here's where the game lays out. You have different zones. Each zone has 2 rune collecting sections, and then a boss fight against a Jotun. The rune collecting sections are often mazes or puzzles. Again, the art and style are so varied and so good you will not notice how tedious these sections can become, usually. Most boss fights are like the one against Jera. Find the pattern and try to stay alive. I will be honest, the raw presentation of all of them actually makes each one fun every time. Look at the introduction to the Jotun Howgats. It's a brilliant piece of animation, and the following fight is frantic and desperate, while the intro to Kaunan might be one of the best looking segments of any game I've played all year. It's here that Jotun shines, in its raw animation. I would actually watch like a whole cartoon from this company. But the game can be frustrating at times. Because of the way the draw distance works, it can be tough to tell the separate surfaces, and as evidenced by the first enemy, the moving parts float a bit on top, so it's easy to get stuck on invisible geometry against bosses. The rune collection quests can be very interesting, but I found them to start to blend together gameplay-wise, and the gameplay itself can be described as very light. Instead, the game focuses more on exploration and adventure, which is nice, but each new level is a pretty narrow corridor with options only in sequence. You know me, that doesn't bother me that much, as seen with my reviews of like That Dragon Cancer and the Beginner's Guide, but it is something to keep in mind when thinking about buying. The game really is a vehicle for telling a story. Okay, so now let's get to that whole mythology thing. I'm a fan of mythology, especially in pop culture form, and this game has it in spades. It is unabashed in delving into its mythos, so much so that the game is in Norse entirely. It tells the mythology from the perspective of a Norse warrior who speaks with such finality that it lends a real legitimacy to the game. Having some knowledge of Norse mythology prior helped a lot, but I feel even without that, I would still have learned something from this game. The reason mythology is so important to me in this game is because it ties together the entire presentation of it. You're being shown various lands that need to reflect the mythology, and they smash this out of the park. It may be an unpopular opinion, but I felt like the gods in God of War were just video game characters. And in this game, I feel the characters shown are really good representations of their mythological figures. Because the story and presentation mesh so well with the mythology, the game feels grander than it actually is. I feel like I've defeated a mighty giant, rather than just figuring out and poaching the pattern of a hitbox. When it was all said and done, I love this game, and I thought it did a great job of not overstaying its welcome. Would I have loved a more complex combat system? Maybe, although that would have changed the focus of the game from adventure to action, and I'm not sure the developers were looking for that. There are some weird budget game quirks like the hitboxes, but this is one of the most well-tested games I've played recently. More than anything, it's a beautiful game that tells a great story and introduced an epic mythology. I recommend this game to anyone who is okay with light gameplay and just wants to go on a journey with a game. Jotun is gigantically nice. Thank you for joining me, and remember, if you can't say anything nice, Hey, thanks for watching. Comment below and tell me what you think about this game. Have you played it? If so, what'd you think? If not, does it look like something you'd want to try? If you like this video and you want to see more, feel free to hit that subscribe button. And you can follow these links to a few of my other, more recent videos. Until next time.